God incites David to number the people. God incites David to number the people. It's there, right, in verse 1. We can't help but notice in verse 1 it says that God incited David to do such and such. So that's something for us to grasp. But then it's possibly made harder for us to grasp if you read 1 Chronicles 21, the parallel version, which tells us something else. It fills in the story, and it tells us in verse 1 of chapter 21 that Satan incited David to number the people. All right. So I would propose that these two things are not mutually exclusive, as it perhaps would appear at first glance. Although it was Satan who probably immediately incited David, ultimately it was God who permitted Satan to carry out that provocation. So it was Satan's design to destroy David. It was Satan's design to wipe out the people of God. But it was God's purpose to use these events to humble David and to teach the people a spiritual lesson. This situation is similar to those first two chapters of the book of Job, when we do see that there's an active agent in the trials of Job's life. And that active agent, initially, I suppose, it seems as if it is Satan, but then we also see that the Lord is using those very same actions to bring about something else. Or then we jump to something even more important, the events that we commemorate on Good Friday and then even Easter Sunday, the crucifixion of the Son of God. Scripture is quite clear that there was a demonic and a satanic influence that caused Jesus Christ to first be betrayed and then be hung upon a cross and crucified. It was Satan's plan to crucify Jesus. But the New Testament also does not let us forget that it is God at work and that it was God's plan for the Son of God to pay for the sins of the world on the cross of Calvary. So just a reminder that God's plan of his work in the world is big enough and giant enough that he can include the willful rebellion or even the terrible tragedies into his giant plan of redemption. It's a big topic, and it's only halfway through verse 1, but I think it's important to grasp that, or at least try to grasp that, to make sense of the rest of it. But what we can't do is, as these two chapters give us different glimpses of the spiritual activities behind the scene, what we can't do is say that David is not responsible for his actions. Whoever is ultimately responsible for prompting or inciting or proposing or suggesting, etc., David to conduct this census, we do know who's ultimately responsible for it, and it's David himself. David, nor can we ever say, well, yeah, it was wrong, but the devil made me do it. Or we could never say, yeah, it was wrong, but God made me do it. James tells us in the New Testament, let no one say when he's tempted, I'm being tempted by God, for God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one. But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire. So that's James 1:13. So who got David into this mess? David's got into this mess himself. In fact, we could say David's desire got him into this mess.